Good morning, everybody. How we doing? See if I can get this thing on here. All right. Well, hey, my name is Chris Pleckenpolt, and I'm one of the pastors here on staff at Wells Branch Community Church. So if you're new, I am so pumped that you are here, and we're back in full swing of fall, right? I mean, fantasy football lineups, first week of waiver wire, that's been done. I know that was exciting for a lot of us as David Johnson went down, and so my fantasy year went out. All right, anyway, I won't get off on that. We're back full-fledged with school. How many are excited for your kids to be at school? Like several years? Yeah. We are very, very, thank you. That's my crowd back there. All right, that's what's up. I've been very excited about it. And we're sending Austin and Jet, my 4-year-old, 2-year-old, to preschool for 2 days a week. It's pretty great. And what they're learning right now is the basic stuff of preschool, like how to get along with other people. Right, and that is a very, very difficult lesson, one which you will never graduate from ever, right? And it is essentially the primary rule that they learn is a cultural rule that we know as the golden rule. Who knows what the golden rule is? Everybody here. You don't have to be a Christian to know what this rule is. It is do unto others as you would have them do to you. That's the golden rule. And so this is not a Christian thing. This is just an American cultural thing, although clearly Jesus taught that that's how we should live, but it's permeated the whole fabric of our culture that everybody knows this. Everybody says this is how you should treat people. In fact, when Hurricane Harvey came through and Hurricane Irma came through Florida, I mean, everybody took a look at that moment. It was like, if that were me, that would be awful. I know I will go and serve, I will go and give, I will go and be a part of helping them, because if I were in that situation, I would love it. I would be so grateful for someone to come and serve me. In fact, we just sent a team to Rockport, which is really cool. Here's the team we just sent, Dan and Don and Chrissy and Lourdes, several Brandons up there. We have a bunch of people who are taking part in going to Rockport, and then I think next week we're doing Houston, so weekly we're going. So if you want to be involved with that, see one of our pastors and we'll get you connected. But that is living out the golden rule. That everyone's going to like, that's good. No one here is going to go like, I don't know. I don't really know if they deserve it out there in Houston. They should just all swim. I mean, no one's saying that. And the reason for that is because we don't know them. It's really easy to serve people you don't know. And when crisis hits, it's even easier. It's like, oh, of course I would do that. I don't know these people. They haven't offended me, but they're in a tragedy. I'm going to go and serve them. Now, here's the problem. Not everybody lives by this golden rule. Did you guys know this? Is this new information? Like, not everybody does this. In fact, there's a lot of people who have actually, they don't live by the golden rule. They live by the rule, I've been hurt. And what do hurt people do? They hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. People who have been violated or hurt emotionally, physically, or verbally, they don't tend to operate out of the golden rule. They operate out of this rule of hurt, and it can look like a bunch of different things, but ultimately it's this place of pain, and sometimes, if we're honest, it could be latent hurt. You guys know what I mean by latent hurt? Like hurt that's been, you were 7, 8, 9, 10, teenage years, in your 20s. Something happened in the past, and you're not getting people back. You're just passing the pain forward. You're like, it's like pay it forward, only the bad kind. Like, I'm going to take my hurt that I've been hurt with, and I'm going to give it to you. Have a nice day. In fact, your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your people that you interact with sometimes get you when you're grumpy, and that's when you've been hurt by somebody, and then you lay it out on somebody else. That's kind of how it works. And so that's why you never know where people are, and that's why latent hurt is a big deal, because we don't even know why we treat people like that, but this is what you may have said. Like when you get in an argument, and you're like, I don't know, that's just the way I was raised, right? And so there's this traumatic experience, and you don't even know what's in there, but you've seen it modeled, you've experienced on the receiving end, and this is just how you do life. It involves a lot of pain. It involves a lot of hurt, and I don't know any different. And so this morning, I want to look at a story to see what happens when the golden rule meets a hurt person, and how we are supposed to respond, and how sometimes it's not always the way that we would like. Okay, here we go. We're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 25. If you don't have a Bible, would you mind raise your hand in the air, wave it like you do care, and a Bible will come to you. We've been in this series of After God's Own Heart for about 6 weeks now, and what we've been doing is looking at each specific moment where different characters interact with God, and specifically we look at David's life. And last week, Phil preached. How many of you guys were here when Phil preached? Wasn't that awesome? Phil is amazing, isn't he? And what Phil said was sort of the main thrust of last week was that David had been chased by King Saul. King Saul was the first king of Israel. He messes up. God rejects King Saul. And then David is anointed, and Saul is jealous of King David, and he wants to kill him. And so he chases him all over Israel. David's hiding in the caves. Saul comes to relieve himself in the cave, and by relieve himself, I mean like what you do at Buc-ee's. And then David comes by, chops off a section of his robe, and then says, I could have killed you. And then the line that I love from Saul is he starts crying. He says to David, you are more righteous than I, for you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil. And up to this point, we look at David, and he is just this model guy of what it looks like to be after God's own heart. But everybody's got a breaking point. Everybody's got a price. Can we just be real? Like, if you get too close to my price, we may not be friends anymore, because I'll be like, I'll sell out if you get close enough, right? Like, we all will. And David, a man after God's own heart, is going to hit that breaking point. And part of the reason he's going to hit that breaking point, in 1 Samuel 25, if you go there, it says the death of Samuel is the way the thing leads off. And it's only like a half verse. You only get a half verse on it. And then Samuel died. Well, if you don't know who Samuel is, Samuel was the prophet who anointed David. He's the one that said, David, God has chosen you. You are a man after God's own heart. God has favor on your life. God is going to do something really special with you. And then that guy dies. And when someone that has been very important to your spiritual life, they die, or someone's very important in your life, they die, it sets your life on a different trajectory forever. I mean, my dad died in 2013. My son was born in 2013. My dad died in 2013. I mean, that was a big year for me. And so that was a kind of a huge trajectory change in many ways for me. And so here is David feeling the wound of losing his really spiritual father. Because this guy's been with him since he was 13, 14 years old, and he's there whenever he slays Goliath. I mean, he's there for all of that. He's there whenever Saul starts chasing him. He takes him in. He tells him, he prays with him. He gives him counsel. He encourages him. And so Samuel is dead. And so now David he's out in the wilderness, and we're going to pick up in 1 Samuel 25, start at the second half of verse 1. Then David, after Samuel's died, rose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel, which, if you know Carmel, California, that's where rich people live, if you didn't know that. And same thing in the Bible here. This is where the rich people live, in Carmel. The man was very rich, and he had about 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. So in current times, he's like Jeff Bezos. He's like Bill Gates. He's like George Soros. This guy is a financier. This guy's got a ton of money. And he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. I mean, not him actually, but all of his minions. Now, the name of the man was Nabal. Now, how many of you guys have read the story before, and every time you read it, you go, that's Nabal? Right, that's what, because we're from Texas, and we say Nabal, and that's okay. We're going to say Nabal for a lot. I just can't help myself. Every time I've been talking about Nabal, I call him Nabal, but it's actually pronounced Nabal, but we're from Texas, so we say Nabal. All right. And so now the name of the man was Nabal, and the wife and the name of his wife was Abigail. And the woman was discerning and beautiful. I mean, this guy was just, how he got her, he totally got someone way out of his league. But the man was harsh and badly behaved. So clearly the Bible says the woman you got was way out of your league. So this is actually biblical to marry out of your league. First of all, David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men. Now, here's what he's going to do. He's going to send these 10 guys, and he's going to say, listen, go to Nabal, and tell him that we've been protecting his flocks, his thousands of goats and sheep. I mean, the reason why he's rich is partially because we've been protecting him. And say, listen, you're about to have a feast. Can you slice off a share of that so that my men who've been protecting you could have a pretty sweet lunch? Because it's a feast day. It's a big deal. We're celebrating. It's a big party. It's like 4th of July. Would you invite us to the party? And then, this is David saying, hey, I was good to you. You didn't ask me to be good to you, but would you be good to me? And we'll just kind of practice this golden rule thing. So, verse 9 shows us kind of how Nabal's response is. When David's young men came, they said all this to Nabal in the name of David, and then they waited. And Nabal answered David's servants, who's David? Who is this son of Jesse? There are many servants these days who are breaking away from their masters. Shall I take my bread and my water and my meat that I've killed for my shears and give it to men who come from I do not know where? Now, listen, David has a top 40 song written about him. All right, people are on their camels with the radio on, way loud, going, David's killed his tens of thousands, and it's blaring. It's like, it's bumping, it's loud, and so everybody, like, when they go home and they have parties, they put the David kills his tens of thousands song on. And so it's not like nobody knows who he is. It's just that David has become enemy number one, FBI most wanted list in all Israel, and everybody's trying to kill him, and there's a bounty on his head. And so Nabal's like, I don't really know if I want to do that. It's not that I don't know you. It's just that I don't want to involve myself with you. I don't care what you've done for me. And so essentially it's this. It's the golden rule is offered, and then what is returned is Nabal returned evil for good. We're doing prison rules. Now, do you guys know what I mean by prison rules? Like, when I played basketball at the park, now it was suburban park, so it wasn't exactly like this, but sometimes you'd be playing and you go up for a jump shot and you're drilling it from way out, and some guy would just, do a form tackle, boom, and you're like, and that's when you go, oh, we're playing prison rules now. That's what you'd say. Essentially, the only rule is there are no rules. Now, well, listen, Chris, I'm sure people play basketball like that. I've never seen that, and I'm sure that, people reject people from giving up lots of food for a big party, but I don't really know what you're talking about. I'm going to put it into, listen, I'm going to give you an illustration of this, and you've got to promise you won't judge me. Will you promise me? Promise? Like, we got like this intimate moment, like, I'm telling you this in secret. This is like a one-on-one moment. We don't need to bring you need to come up later and go like, I did that too. Let's just leave it here, okay? So when I was in high school, I was 16. I want to reiterate that I was 16, okay? I was 16. And I had a girlfriend, and I broke up with said girlfriend, and then I started dating another girl. So Natalie, I broke up with Natalie, and then I started dating Lisa. And so on one of our first dates, I had this really great idea. Gosh, so painful to even share this. Okay, I was like, hey, Lisa, let's go. You're 16, so where do you go for dates? Like McDonald's. So we're going to go to McDonald's. Well, the McDonald's that I chose was the one that Natalie worked at. So of course, you're judging. You said you wouldn't do it. All right. So we pull up, all right, and I don't tell Lisa this at all, right? I'm like, let's go to McDonald's. It'll be kind of fun. It's on the campus of UNT, University of North Texas, and we'll be like, I was still in high school, she was in college, and I'll feel like I'm, college kid or something. So we roll into the one at McDonald's there, and as we're getting out of the car, I go, oh, by the way, Natalie works here. And she looks at me like, I hate you. And I get out of the car and let me walk in. And then I'm like, hey! And you just see Natalie's face go, nah. Yeah, the judgment, it's all real. So that's prison rules. That's what you do when you have no rules. When you say void to social, everybody knows you don't take your girlfriend to where your old girlfriends work and just go like, hey, look what you just don't do that. You don't do that. That is wrong on so many different levels. I apologize. I'm so sorry to every one of you and to Natalie. Okay, and Lisa. Okay, I was 16. Can we reiterate that? I was 16. That's what you do, though. That's prison rules. And so the one thing when I read this story initially about with David, I was like, did Nabal really owe David anything? Like, is this kind of like, mafia style where like, hey, we've been protecting your store for the past year. You pay us fee. Like, is it one of those? Or, no, but if you go down a couple verses, Abigail, his wife, gets told by one of the men that Nabal just rejected David, and he explains how David really helped them. He's like, behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to greet our master, and we suffered no harm, and we did not miss anything when we were in the fields, as long as we went with them. So they were kind of like the tag-along, like, hey, where are you guys going? Over there. Me too! Like they just would sort of follow. It was like the little brother that you're just like, gosh, but all right, fine. And so they took care of, David's men took care of all of Nabal's servants, all their sheep. And he says, they were a wall to us both by night and by day, all the while we were keeping the sheep. Now, so clearly, Nabal institutes prison rules of like, I'm stronger, I got more power, I want to show everybody I don't have to respond to the giant killer, I don't care who you are, you can just leave, thank you very much. I didn't ask for your help, I'd be fine without you. And I know I've got gazillions and gazillions of dollars and thousands of sheep, but I can't give you one. So David hears this, and listen, I want you to hear this. It's not like David needs the money. It's not like David needs the food. This is just pure insult, okay? This is just pure disrespect. That's all this is. So when David gets this, David's young men turned away and came back and told him all this. David said to his men, every man strap on his sword, and every man of them strapped on his sword. And David also strapped on his sword. This is where the original phrase, get strapped, came from, if you didn't know that. Might be the wrong context to share that. You may not know what getting strapped is. That's okay, we'll keep moving. All right, after about 400 men went up with David, while 200 remained with the baggage. And so what this is, it's called a raiding party, all right? So this is something that I need to educate you on because everyone needs to know what raiding parties are. In the military, we still do it this way. Isn't that fun? So the way that you do a raiding party is you take everybody to a RP, a rally point, and that's where you put all your gear. You put all your rucksacks, your bags, all the stuff, like to kind of come back for resupply just in case things go bad. And so they take 600 guys, 200 stay with the baggage, and 400 go to mean business. Like, you don't take 400 people to a party just to be like, hey, that was mean. You go take 400 people there to go kill everybody. So David is angry. In fact, David justified this, returning evil for evil. This is the justice rule. This is justice. What happened to me was not fair. He insulted me. In fact, listen, you get to read David's mind because David shares with us his exact mind. This is what David's thinking. Listen to this. This is where you go, whoa, David, this is not you, man. Remember you and Saul, you had like a robe and then you didn't kill him and all your men said, why don't you kill him? And you didn't kill him and he was literally trying to kill you, like literally, like he's throwing spears at you. Like this would be a justifiable like shoot back kind of moment. But this guy just insulted you. And you've snapped. Look at how he snapped. David said, and this is David talking to himself. You know, after you start talking to yourself, you know you're in a bad place, okay? Just throwing that out there. Surely in vain have I guarded all that this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belonged to him, and he has returned me evil for good. Who else returned evil for good? Saul. Remember that? Same phrase. And then he says this, God, do so to the enemies of David, and more also, if by morning I leave so much as one male of all who belong to him, I will kill them all. David is not, this isn't just like, I'm going to go and egg his house, or I'm going to slash tires, key his car. This is, I'm killing your family. This is like, I'm so hurt, I've been so hunted, that I'm going to hurt, and I'm going to hunt someone. And I can tell you, I understand this. Being a person that's been to combat, when I'm with men in my company, here's what happened. Like, we lost 6 men in combat. 6 men in my command, like, died. And I had some crusty dudes who were like, sir, I'm going to go kill everybody. I don't care. I mean, they sort of look like his family, so I'll kill all y'all. I mean, it was one of those moments. And I got to like, whoa, we don't do that. We don't, like, we are here to, administrate justice. This isn't just vigilante killing. We aren't going to do, like, paybacks. We can't, no, guys, we can't do that. But when you are been so wounded, when you've been so hurt, it's like, I got to do something. Somebody's got to pay. Now, I know that probably very few of you are going to go to combat, and less of you are probably going to go on a murder spree. I mean, just odds are in your favor in that one. But you know where you probably have faced this? Okay, you faced this. It's at home. It's with your spouse. And they've hurt you. And there's something that's called in marriage theory. So like if you're like a marriage counselor person, so I do a lot of that, and we actually have like counseling here at Wells Branch Community Church because we have a lot of that going on. And one of the things that you study is this thing called the repair effort. And so it looks like this. So you know, usually guys do this one. After you had like this big fight, they make a really dumb joke. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? They're like, so that was like really hard, and then they're just trying, they're searching for words, and then they go, oh, you want to make a joke now? That's called rejecting a repair effort. It might have been weak, it may have been awful, but they were trying, and you're like, you're a moron, right? Like that's sort of where you go. So it's like, how can you make a joke? That joke is an attempt at a reconciliation, okay? That joke. It may have been an awful joke, it may have been like dumb, it may have been sports oriented where you didn't get it. I understand that. Or like the apology where they come in, it's like a half-hearted apology, but they don't know how to really do a full one because they've never learned how to do a full one. So they're like, hey, sorry. Because this is how guys, this is for free on men and women. This is how guys reconcile. They'll be like watching sports, sitting, they won't even be looking at each other, but like, hey, so you know that thing? And the other guy's like, yeah, sorry about that. It's cool. And that's it. Like that's the whole conversation. No one says anything else. Like you pretend it never happened. That's how men operate. So that's for free. If you're just wondering why he doesn't like really express himself, it's he doesn't have any words left. That's it. All right. And so there's that apology. Or like if you want to, sometimes they're like, hey, I can't talk about that right now. I listen, and then what can happen is the other spouse is like, oh, we're talking about it, and we're talking about it now. And we grind it out. I don't want to, listen, you're going to understand what you did, and we grind, and we grind, and we grind, and we let them know how wrong they are. You need to understand. Or another one is the touch, right? So you've had the blow up, and then one of the spouse, if someone comes up and they kind of rub the back, it's like, don't, get off of me. In fact, here's a weird one. Men, this is one I didn't think was like a real thing, but it's a thing. Then when I do counseling, this is like a real thing, and so don't feel like you're the only couple experience this when I share this. But one of the things that men do a lot, and I thought it would be women would do this, but it's really more men than women. It's men will withhold sex. They'll be like, oh, so that's how it's going to be. All right, I'll sleep on the couch. I'll make you pay for the way you treated me. I'm going to get my justice. I'm not going to get mad. I'm going to get even. That's how we roll. And it's a dark path, and it's a dark place, because what you're wanting and what you're trying to achieve is the same thing that David wants, is I just want it fair. You owe me, and if I can't get the hurt repaid back, I'll hurt you back. That's how justice works. Now, thankfully in the story, the hero of the story is obviously not David. David's out for blood. The hero of the story is Abigail. And Abigail, when she gets word that David is coming with 400 big hairy dudes with swords strapped, and they're about to wreak some havoc on anybody in their path, she has an option. Like option one, hey, Nabal, I think there's a great shopping trip in New York this weekend. I need to go check it out. Can I get the credit card? I'll see you later. And she's out. Okay, that's one option. The other option is she just makes a little thing. Hey, honey, I'm going to take the kids. We're going to grandma's. And kids, oh, it's going to be a fun weekend at grandma's. And so she just like, you can run. You can get out of there. You could go tell Nabal, we need to muster up the troops because he's got a security team. He's not rich with no security team. And we're going to go to battle on this thing. But you know what she does? She gathers together 200 loaves of bread. She gets 5 butchered sheep. She gets 2 skins of wine. I mean, it's not like the wine that you get at the corner store that's like $9. It's like the good stuff. And then she gets a whole bunch of grain, like for bread and for more food, and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs, and she loads it onto this donkey, and she goes by herself to meet David and 400 dudes. And that's where we pick up with Abigail. Verse 23. When Abigail saw David, she hurried and got down from the donkey and fell down before David on her face and bowed to the ground. Nabal is like the richest dude in all of Israel. There's not very many people that Nabal's wife, Abigail, is bowing down to. She fell at his feet and said, on me alone, my Lord, be the guilt. Please let your servant speak in your ears and hear the words of your servant. Let not my Lord regard this worthless fellow, Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. My husband is a moron. Now, I don't recommend that part for your marriage, but everything else. But I, your servant, didn't see the young men of my Lord, whom you sent. And I want you to hear, she is going in the place of her moron husband as a substitute and say, like, don't be angry at my husband. Put your anger at me and let me apologize. This is the ultimate repair attempt. She's going to repair effort. She's going to try. And then she's going to say this. And I love this next verse. Now then, my Lord, as the Lord God lives and as your soul lives, and then she's going to do like a Jedi mind trick. Because the Lord has restrained you from blood guilt. The Lord has restrained you from blood guilt. Yes, he has. I will not kill you. And from saving with your own hand, now let your enemies and those who seek to do evil to my Lord be as Nabal. And now let this present that your servant has brought to my Lord be given to you, given to the young men who follow my Lord. And all the stuff she brought. Please forgive the trespass of your servant. And she's saying, me, forgive me. And then the next verse, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house. For Lord God will make you, Lord David, a sure house. Because, and I love this. Listen, this is for free marriage advice. If you're single, write this down, ladies. Okay. If you ever want to get your way with a man, this is like free, okay? This is like totally free. This is it. This is how you do it. You go, you are so great at your job. Look at it. You are so strong. You're so fighting the Lord's battles. You're just so great. Evil shall not be found in you so long as you live. You are just such a warrior. I mean, let me feel those. Oh, yeah. Like, this is how you do it, all right? So just in case you were wondering, every man will cave at this one moment. Like, no, you're right. What do you want again? I don't know how you do it at work. You're just working so hard. All right. If men rise up to pursue you and to seek your life, the life of my Lord shall be, here's a fun Hebrew phrase that will mean nothing to you, so I'll try and explain it. For the life of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living in the care of the Lord. Like, what? The bound in the bundle. So what he's talking about is, like, it's something that's really close. It's like a money belt would be like this, or a wallet. So think a wallet for a dude, or think a woman's purse. Like, you are like in the Lord's purse. And you know that anything in a purse is safe because nobody wants to touch anything inside there. You open that thing up, I don't want to, that's kind of a, So that's, at least in my world. Okay, bound in the bundle of the living in the care of the Lord your God, and in the lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the hollow of a sling. And what's she doing? She's referencing back to David when he killed Goliath with just a sling. I mean, she's throwing these little reminders out. I mean, remember, everybody knows the song. Everybody knows the story about David. He is like a folk hero on the most wanted list. He is the bandit. He's like Robin Hood at this point. Everybody sort of loves him except for Nabal. And so then she's going to go straight. She's going to pull a Jesus juke on him. She's going to listen. Let's just trust the Lord with this. Watch. And when the Lord has done to my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you and has appointed you prince over Israel. I want you to see this. She gives him respect for how amazing he's doing his job. And then she reminds him what God has promised. Do you see this? God has promised you. You're going to be king. You are going to be the king of Israel. Kings of Israel don't just go slaughter somebody's entire family for an insult. You're bigger than that, David. My Lord shall have no cause of grief or pangs of conscience for having shed blood without cause, or for my Lord working salvation himself. And when the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, then remember your servant. She's going to the future saying, listen, God has done some work in you. And why would you want to tarnish that? Why would you take this amazing gift of God taking you as a 14-year-old kid, slaying Goliath, you having the presence of mind not to kill King Saul, and here an idiot insults you, and you're ready to wipe out a family? You're ready to do a massacre. David, what happened to you? And David's like, I've just been hurt. But you see, hurt people can be healed when they meet the grace rule. Abigail returned good for evil. And this changes the trajectory of David's whole world. A guy that's been hurt, a guy that's been chased, a guy that's been convicted of crimes he never even thought of doing. In fact, he did the exact opposite. And he's tired, he's exhausted, and he's angry, and he's frustrated. And all of a sudden, this voice of this woman just goes, wake up. Wake up. And every one of us needs an Abigail to speak into our lives. Every one of us needs someone to go, no, that's not who you are. Because you know why Abigail is able to go and do this? You want to know why? It's not that she trusts David. I mean, David, he's a maniac, right? I mean, and sometimes he's off killing people, and other times he's writing songs about how great God is. I mean, he is, depending on the day, he's at the up or down. This guy could use some serious Prozac. I mean, the reality is, this is a person that's up and down. She doesn't trust David. You know who she trusts? David's God. David's God. She makes herself unbelievably vulnerable. She comes before David and all his swordsmen, and David, they're all strapped, and she says, you can kill me now, but listen to my words. Repair, effort. And then David responds, he's like, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. I lost my mind. The pain was so great, I couldn't even see straight. And thank you for saving me from doing something really dumb that would make God look awful. I don't want to be that kind of a man. I don't want to be that. And so here it is. This is what's so important here. One, Abigail attempts to repair, and then David receives it. You see how that's how you overcome the justice rule. Somebody's got to be godly enough to go, hey, I don't want to fight anymore. And this isn't just spouses. This is people at work who you've got that edginess with, and you're like, you're sending gotcha emails at 4:59 p.m. because you know they won't read it, and then whatever's due at 9 a.m., you're like, sorry, sucker. That's how we do. That's how we do, because we just kind of, we get angry. We want to get back at somebody because they mistreated us, or, they remind you of the person that mistreated, or You just need to mistreat somebody. It's prison rules. In fact, this is kind of what we're dealing with. When the golden rule gets violated, it gets violated by the prison rule. And then you have an opportunity to how to respond. How are you going to respond? Are you going to try and get justice? Or are you going to go for the grace? And here's the reason why we don't do this a lot. And when I talk to couples, this is it. This comes down. Listen, Chris, I believe you that that's probably the best way to do it. I'm sure that the guys at work, it'd be amazing if I just, was a little bit bigger of a man or bigger of a woman, and I just overcame that and gave these people grace. But here's the thing. If I do that, I'll become a doormat. I'm just giving them permission to walk all over me. Let me just lay down, stomp on me again. And that's not what God's saying. You see, the reason why we respond with the grace rule is because there's another rule that I haven't shared with you yet, because there's another character that's been talked about in this entire story, and that's the Father and the Father's rule. See, God has dealt with evil, so you don't have to. I told this story first service. My wife is here, and it's really awkward to tell because it's sort of slightly embarrassing. But we went to Hat Creek Burger with the family last night, and we're there, and Hat Creek Burger is kind of like when the playground area. It's like UFC cage match for all the children. And so I kind of patrol it, do once around, and I noticed on the slide Austin is he's really nervous, and there's all these other kids, and he's not he's sort of introverted, and he's a little anxious, and there's a big kid, and I'm like, you can do it. You gotta go right past the big kid. You can do it. And so he gets up there, and he's in the slide, and he's like, he's really so timid, and he's kind of like, can I get past you? And then the big kid goes, shoom, and shoves him down. And I'm like, I think I might have flown, actually. I somehow, in like a second's time, I get up right in that kid's face, and I'm like, don't you ever touch my kid again. And I go, who are your parents? And I thought I was whispering. And Adrian goes, she just told me, she's like, do you know the whole playground heard you say that? Oh, I guess my voice carries. Well, anyway, the dad actually came over and brought his kid. They all paused, and I'm like, it's no big deal. On the inside, I'm like, yeah, anyway. All right, I want you to hear this, because we've been hurt. But you have a Father in heaven who doesn't just look at pain lightly. You have a God in heaven who gets violently angry when someone hurts his kid. And he's going to see justice is served. The problem is that everybody's this kid. And so you know how he serves justice? He takes it out, not on the other kid's son, but on his son. And Jesus goes to the cross because the Father loves all his children so much, and that whoever would believe in him would not perish, would not receive justice. They get something very unfair. The perfect God-man Jesus would die as a substitute in their place. Abigail was willing to be a substitute for Nabal, and then at the same time, Abigail was willing to be a substitute for David before God. Don't do this. And Jesus comes to be your substitute so that every pain, all the hurt you've received, it's going to be dealt with. God does not look lightly on it at all. And he'll take care of people that haven't taken care of you. He always gets justice. In fact, you can see it in the story with Nabal when Abigail comes back and she says, hey, good news, David's not going to kill everybody. I just gave him a whole bunch of food. Nabal's heart, because he's such a stingy, miserly dude, dies right there. The Lord struck him down. God takes care of his kids. And then 10 days later, Abigail gets a text message, you want to get married? sweet, let's do this. Not exactly the romantic in that moment was David, but Abigail joins David's family and is on this mission to reveal the God of grace to the world. And isn't that what we're here to do? And so here's the thing I'm really going to challenge you with tonight, or this morning. Do you trust God enough to return good for evil? Do you trust him? Listen to me. Because a lot of us here are in blended families. A lot of us are going through divorce. A lot of us have pain where we've been hurt unbelievably, almost maniacally. It's been prison rules. And the question is, are you going to reach back and hurt, or are you going to reach back and give grace because you trust God enough to take care of vengeance? And listen, I'm asking a tall order from you to do that. And the only way you can do this is if you've received the amazing gift of God, his son dying for you. And so this morning, if you've never received Jesus as your Savior, my hope and my prayer and my cry is that you would stand before God and say, God, I'm a sinner. I believe your son Jesus died on the cross in my place for my sin, and he rose from the dead. Holy Spirit, make me the person you want me to be, and teach me how to give grace to those people who have just burned me. And God answers those prayers. And there will be healing. If you're a believer here, my heart is that you would go and be reconciled to people that have hurt you, burned you, crushed you, and it might be somebody that's really, really close to you. It might be this person sitting next to you, or the person that should be sitting next to you. As we close and as we pray, I want you to be having those people on your hearts and your minds as we sing this next song and as we go before the Lord. Father, you are the God of the universe, and there is nobody greater than you. And my tendency, God, is to wreak justice on all those who may hurt me and hurt my family. And God, I'm praying that your grace would be sufficient. God, I'm praying that we wouldn't be people looking to go get vengeance on people. We would be people looking to show grace to people. But the heart of all this comes from the heart of a father, because you showed us amazing grace. And God, I pray that we would be people who would hear from heaven, and that we would be a people who love you deeply and desperately. And Jesus, I'm praying for somebody today who doesn't know you, that would receive you for the very first time, and they would respond to your gospel. And God, I'm praying that for those of you here, for those of us here that are in darkness, and there's just this pain of a parent, pain of a spouse, ex-spouse, children, whatever the hurt is, God, that you would do your redemptive healing work for the glory of your name and all your fame. We love you, Jesus. It's for your glory. Amen.